Alright, so you remember in my first video, the introduction, I was telling you I was going to finish up my aquarium stand for the 30-gallon or 40 breeder. This is it. I think it's turning out pretty nice. I'm going to have a door right here, which is sitting over there. I have to stain it and gloss that, but this just needs 2 more coats of gloss. It should have been finished by now, but the last time I worked on it, I just used just a sheet of sandpaper and my hands to try and do the sanding on the gloss. And the stupid thing ended up stabbing me. Like, literally, it was a stab wound. This splinter was about 1 inch long, millimeters thick. It went in one side of my finger, out the other, and it tried to go into the next finger. So it was literally a stab wound. It was definitely an experience. So this time, now that I'm attacking it again, I've got my trusty sander block. It will not stab me again. So, on to work. And here is the finished product. I think it turned out amazing. Alright, so now we're on the hard part, moving the tanks. A little bit of change from what I told you in the first video. In the first video I told you we were going to move this tank, but the stand is in my living room, so we're going to move this tank first because this is more of a display tank. So we're going to move this tank into the living room, but we're still going to upgrade him. I will include the time-lapse, the timestamp for upgrading his tank if you wanted to skip to that. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move this tank. Now, to move this tank, it's very, very heavy. You have got to remember that. A lot of people, they don't take into consideration their substrate, their rocks, everything. Even when it comes to dosing, when you're dosing medicine, medications, fertilizers, you have to take into consideration what the substrate is taking up. Which, we'll do that in another video. So one thing that you also want to take into consideration and remember, when moving a tank, you want to kind of treat it as a water change. So if you know you're going to move your tank, hold off on your water change, depending upon how the time frame falls. With this one, I did hold off on moving my water change because I was going to do my water change 3 days ago. But today is the day that I'm moving the tank, so I held off on it. When doing a water change, when cleaning your aquarium glass, one thing I had to do is I had to go in and take about 5 or 6 of my mystery snails off of the glass. There's about, to be honest, there's about 15 mystery snails in here. I had to take several of them off the glass. I do want to touch on that because a lot of people do not know how to remove their mystery snails from the glass properly or place them in the tank properly. So if they're stuck on the glass, if they're climbing the glass, you want to turn them in a circle. Turn them in a circle as you're moving them. Some of them might be stubborn, they don't want to let go, but you got to be patient, you got to keep going. Some of them will come off quickly. Here's a couple that are climbing the glass. We'll go ahead and try and do those so you can kind of see. So we're going to turn it and move it. This one's coming off real easy. Now you see how I dropped them? I didn't mean to do that. You always want to place your mystery snails in the tank. Any snail that you get, if it's a new snail, whatever, you want to place him down properly in a position to where they can safely crawl away. And you know that they can crawl away properly. Because sometimes if you just drop them in, they can land on their backs and not be able to get up. Now my snails, they're automatically flipping back over. They're nice and healthy. So they're flipping back over. This one's just kind of going to a side. But like if you take this one and flip him over, see, he automatically goes back right. They're nice and healthy. Let's try and get this one off. Remember to turn and move, turn and move. And he comes right off. These two. So, but always put your snails that way when you get new snails. You never know how they were taken care of, how they were fed before. they're already stressed from the tank move from one environment to another. Always make sure that you place them down properly. But we're going to go ahead and get to work. We're going to clean the glass. We're going to go through like we're doing a water change. We're going to get rid of most of this tank water. We're going to leave 2 full 5-gallon buckets worth of water. I'm going to keep that out of this tank so that we don't crash it too much. Either way it goes, you can still crash it. Please be very careful about that. Make sure that you're treating your tank. Make sure you keep an eye on it. Make sure you're testing your water levels. Whenever you move a tank, whenever you have to do this big of a water change. I have a sponge filter. I have a hob or hang on the back filter as well. We'll get into sponge filters later on. They're very vital, in my opinion, to any tank I have. This one does not have one in it because he eats it. That's the only reason why he doesn't have one. He eats it. Beast mode is beast mode for a reason. So, but every other of my tanks, they have a sponge filter. Be watching for that video. I'll let you know when that comes on. We're going to go ahead and get started in changing this tank and moving it. Alright, so we're on to switching out beast mode from here into here. I've already done a little bit of the work. This is actually really easy to do without having to cycle it. Very similar to how I start new tanks without cycling them. Again, not suggested. All I did was move his hang on the back filter from his tank to here. I'm going to move all his substrate from here to here. Basically everything's going from one tank to the next. Beast mode is sitting in the bucket for now. He'll be fine in there for a little bit. We'll put this air stone in here. This air stone right here, I'll get that in there in his bucket with him, and he'll be fine for about an hour. So that will be long enough for this filter to go through each and every gallon and have it go through the cycled media that's in here. Like I said, it's very similar to when I start brand new tanks. I usually keep sponge filters in every single tank of mine, of course except for this one, as I said earlier. The sponge filters are in every tank of mine. Most of my larger tanks have more than one, so that they're cycled at all times, just in case I need to do a last minute tank like I had to do with my peacock gudgeons. I had to get them out of that tank, the eggs, so I just used a used sponge filter and stuck that in there, and they're perfectly fine. They're doing really good. They're actually, you can see eyes now. Super excited about that. So I'm going to finish this up and I'll show you the finished product. And tank on, my friends.